How's it going? I'm Jared Gillis. Welcome to another All About RVs. Today, we're going to be talking about towing your travel trailer or your fifth wheel. I have a bunch of tips and some advice and some information to make RV travel with your travel trailer or fifth wheel much more enjoyable and relaxing. I think you can break this down into just a few areas. It's going to be based off of your vehicle, your equipment, and your experience. And the good thing about that is a lot of this you can change or learn. These tips are going to help you with everything from going down the highway so it doesn't feel like you're white knuckling it to being able to back into your site once you get to the campground. So let's dive in and take a look at vehicles, because that's kind of the base of what we're going to be building off of and working with. All the modifications and things we're going to be adding onto it to make it safer and easier and more relaxing, and the tips to go along with that are just going to be on top of the base that we have to work on. And if you're in the shopping process, you want to shop in order to get a vehicle, a tow vehicle that's going to match well with the RV that you're wanting. So you kind of want to know those sizes, you want to know those numbers, because one of the first tips I have for you is salespeople don't always have the best information and don't even really know where to get the information. I'm not saying that's across the board, but I have seen it over and over again. Going to salespeople at dealerships don't always get you to the important information that you need. It's more about the sale and getting that money in the door. Okay, I'm gonna use our truck and our RV as an example of what I think a good pairing is. So we bought this truck when we had a larger RV, and we bought it so that the numbers made sense with that, with an extra cushion. And we knew when we downsized to this RV, 35 foot instead of the 38 foot RV, we knew that the numbers were just gonna get even better. So if we look on the door of the truck, we can see that our payload is 4,528. And we know on this truck that our max towing is over 20,000 pounds. So when we look at the trailer, that's 11,495 pounds. So we know that this can tow 20,000 pounds. We know that that is under 12,000 pounds. So we have a huge buffer there. If we take 20% of that for kind of estimating what's going to be on the pin that's going to land in the bed of the truck, that's nowhere near the payload number that we have for this truck. So we have plenty of room for passengers and cargo, and we're not going to be like on the razor's edge of that number either. There's going to be plenty of room. So we know that this truck is more than capable for doing that RV and not really being stressed out to do it. It's going to be a good pairing. That was just a quick crash course of the numbers. I'm going to put a link down in the description so you can see our video where we looked at all the numbers that are very important, but those are usually the ones that are going to be limiting, and then you can look at it a little bit closer. So now the next piece of the puzzle is how we're going to connect these together. We need a fifth wheel hitch to go from the truck to the fifth wheel, or we need a hitch to be able to go from the tow vehicle to the travel trailer. And a resource that we have used is eTrailer. They have a really good selection in both of these arenas depending on what kind of RV you have. So not only do they have a really good selection, they also have good information. So if you needed to, you wanted to call them up and get a little bit more information on the hitches that you're looking at, or you wanted to help narrow it down to fit exactly what you were wanting, you can call them up and get that information and find exactly what works for you. The hitches that we have, I think, are kind of bomb-proof, bulletproof. I think they're fantastic. So just like with anything else, there's going to be pros and cons of towing with a fifth wheel compared to a travel trailer, but we really enjoy towing with a fifth wheel for a handful of reasons. If you're looking at stability, comparing the two, that edge definitely goes to the fifth wheel just because the way that it connects in there and it distributes the weight. You don't have to have a weight distribution hitch. The way that it connects in with a fifth wheel is just a very strong, stable connection. So the way that translates into towing is when you have a properly sized truck for what you're towing, it's going to affect you less when those semis go by or when that wind is starting to pick up. You still don't want to be out there in extremely heavy wind, but it's going to be a much more stable ride while you're towing. And as far as this hitch, there's a lot of great hitches that are out there, but this thing is an absolute tank. The only complaint that I would have about it is just how heavy it is. So it does take up a lot of space in the bed, and we do need to take it out. It is very heavy. But one of the things that I love about it is just how heavy it is. The thing is just built so solid. So American made, American steel. So we always know that we can depend on it. We've never had any problems with, I don't even know how much towing we've done on it. It's just been an amazing hitch. I would definitely go with this hitch again. Now there's hitches out there where you can kind of dampen some of the movement between the trailer or fifth wheel compared to what's going to be translated to the truck. I'll get into some of those strategies, and there's definitely hitches out there that will do that. But for us, we love this hitch, just how strong and solid it is for towing our fifth wheel. Now with the travel trailer, to kind of bridge that gap and bring some of that stability from the fifth wheel over here, you want to install something like this, a hitch that is weight distribution and sway control. The hitch that we have here is the Equalizer 4-point sway control, and it's a weight distribution hitch. So what that means is instead of trying to lift the rear of your truck with airbags to try and balance things out, that can actually make things worse, is you use a hitch like this, and it's going to help distribute the weight across the axles that you have and not have that huge point load just here bringing down the back of your truck. It's going to help you with maneuvering, it's going to help you with steering and braking. So it's kind of the best of all worlds having a hitch like this. So just a quick rundown of how something like this works. You can see that the ball here actually has kind of a strange angle, and then you have these bars going back. So these bars are going to be tensioned, and they're going to have friction on the mounts that mount to the trailer. And they also have friction here, which is going to help with the sway portion of it. So it has 4 points here that's going to have friction that gives you that weight distribution and the sway control. There are some great hitches out there, but this is the one that we went with for a handful of reasons. Number one, it's American made, American steel, and it is really well made. And it's not that difficult to be able to set it up. You have adjustments, so you have spacers here, you have a set screw on the bottom, and you have adjustments on the side of the trailer in order to get it dialed in exactly for how much weight you need to distribute. And the thing about this hitch is it's kind of in the middle for the price. It's not the cheapest and it's not the most expensive. It kind of floats somewhere on the lower end of the middle. I've been extremely happy with this hitch. We just did 1,600 miles with it, and it was fantastic. When semis would be coming by to pass us, we wouldn't really move at all. We couldn't even hardly tell that a semi was passing us. When we were going through windy areas, we had no problems. Going down the road, the porpoising, the swaying, none of that was an issue using this hitch with this truck and that trailer. This is a 25-foot car hauler trailer. It's a lot like an RV. I would highly recommend a hitch like this, and it works well for evening things out. When people try and use airbags to lift the back of their truck, they're actually making the situation worse. Using something like this in order to level it out, distribute that weight, and do what it does best is the proper way to do it. If you want to use airbags in order to kind of smooth out the ride or change the ride quality just a little bit, not to just lift the back of your truck and try and even things out, that's the proper way to use them. They can help the ride comfort a little bit, but you need to get your ride dialed in before you start adding airbags and messing with that system. My thought on that is get equipment that actually addresses the problem rather than just eliminating the look of the problem. Even though you can do things to help smooth out the trailer and the truck, and there are a lot of good options for that. Now, thinking about it, the same thing could be said about the hitches that suppress the movement of the RV so you don't feel it in the truck. I'm not opposed to those, but what about suppressing the movement in the RV before it actually moves to the truck? So that's talking about suspension on the RV, because like, for example, ours doesn't have anything to suppress the movement once we hit a pothole. It just needs to finish making its move until it settles down. So we can do things like sumo springs or a bolt-on shock kit. There's a lot of different types of upgrades you can do. Those are some of the lower cost ones, all the way up to a really expensive independent suspension, which is really going to smooth it out when you're going down the road. But that's just a thought. If you're feeling the RV moving quite a bit, rather than just dampening it in between on the connection point, you might want to dampen the movement on the RV itself. I know it might seem like I don't like airbags, or I don't like the hitches that suppress the movement in between the RV and the truck, and that's actually not it at all. I think those are great. I don't like when people try and use airbags and stuff like that to try and minimize a bad setup, or not having a weight distribution hitch and trying to level the load. They're good for ride comfort. They're not good for trying to distribute weight or trying to compensate for a bad pairing of a truck and an RV. That's all. So now let's dive into some of these tips. And some of these are going to be extremely obvious, like putting your mirrors out on your truck. Make sure that they're extended. Ours actually rotate up, so we can rotate those up and we can get a better view of what's happening while we're towing. Another really easy one is I like to test those brakes before I get out on the main road. So as I just start pulling, I will squeeze those trailer brakes on the inside of the truck. So that way I'll see if the trailer's actually trying to slow us down and stop us. So I want to test those before I get out on the main road and realize, hey, there might be a short there, or something became disconnected, or there's a problem with connecting it to the truck through that cable. I want to know that before I get out on the main road and need those brakes. So test those before you get out on the main road. Also, when you're getting out on the road and you're going to be making these turns, make that turn wider. So you almost want to kind of go farther forward than you normally would and then begin your turn. If you just try and make your turn like you normally would, those tires might fall into a ditch. They might hop over a curb because it's going to dog track in. So you don't want to cause damage to your RV or anything else. And along those same lines, you want to be aware of tail swing. That's the section behind the axle on your travel trailer or fifth wheel. As you make a turn, your tail will swing out farther in the opposite direction of what you're turning. So that's really important around gas pumps or tight locations. You don't want to hit a sign or gas pump or something like that. So be aware of tail swing. Another thing to be aware of is the information on the side of your tire. It actually has a speed rating in there that you shouldn't exceed. I'll put a link down in the description also to the video on tire information, but for us, we have a speed rating of N. We should not go over 87 miles an hour with that speed rating. We don't go that fast, but oftentimes trailer tires will have even lower speeds than that you should not exceed. So know the speed rating on your tire. Now, here's a tip that I think everybody should know. If you're going down the road and you're starting to lose control of your trailer, it's starting to sway back and forth, what you want to do is you want to reach down, grab that brake control, and apply those brakes. Just squeeze that controller. Don't apply the brakes on the inside of the vehicle, but that brake controller, so that way the trailer tries to slow down and it puts everything back in line. So there's a lot of reasons why you might end up with a sway problem, but one of those reasons is a improperly loaded trailer. Now, just because you have a weight distribution hitch doesn't mean that you can get lazy and not worry about how you load that. Yes, it is going to distribute the weight, but you still want to load it properly to get the best ride that you can when you're going down the road. And that's where you want to know what your tongue weight is or your pin weight on the fifth wheel. You want to know and have that in the proper range. And moving things around and deciding makes it really easy when you can have a scale and be able to test that. So this is a little tongue scale that you can get. I got it from E-Trailer, obviously, and you can put it underneath here and you can weigh. Now, there's not much in this trailer right now, so you can see that it's pretty light. But if we move things around in there and slide some things forward, we can see that it drastically changes the weight on the tongue here. So if you wanted to put your generator in the back bay or the front bay or whatever compartment you might want to put it in, it's going to affect the weight and how it's distributed throughout the RV. Now, this is where fifth wheels and travel trailers are a little bit different. The amount of pin weight or tongue weight is going to vary between the different types of RVs. So on a fifth wheel, you want to take the total weight of the fifth wheel, and it's usually going to be between 15 to 25% of that weight that's going to be coming down on the pin to land on that hitch. So usually I aim for around that 20%. But on a travel trailer, it is going to be between 10 and 15%. So that's going to be the difference of how much weight should be on there so that it's comfortable going down the road. You don't want it too heavy and you also don't want it too light. Both of those will cause problems. We're trying to make this more enjoyable for RV. Okay, here is a big one. This is going to be 3 tips for backing up your RV. This is going to help you improve backing up your RV so you don't get stressed out when you do it. Nobody wants to get to the campground. Everybody's watching you. You get a little nervous. You try and back into a site, and then you get frazzled, and it just becomes a mess trying to back up. Here are 3 tips for backing up easier. Number 1, you want to take a look at what you have to work with. So when you get there, get out and walk around. You want to see the site. You want to see what you're going to be pulling into and how you would like it situated in there. If you can visualize it, that's going to be step number 1. The second part of walking around is you want to look for any obstacles that you might have. Sometimes these parks get really busy on these holiday weekends, and maybe just asking somebody to move a vehicle or a golf cart or some kind of object in your way. Sometimes there's a road sign that you might be swinging into. You want to see what those obstacles are around you so that you can avoid them. Number 2, you want to pull a little bit farther than you might think for pulling into your site. You don't want to just have the end of your RV kind of right there where it needs to turn to move into the site. If you pull farther forward and as you start backing up, you can see the trajectory of the trailer or the fifth wheel, and you can visualize it going into the site a little bit better. The third tip has to do with steering. You don't want to forget which way you need to turn to get the trailer to go which direction. It's pretty easy. If you put your hand at the bottom of the steering wheel and you want the trailer to go left, just move your hand left and the trailer is going to go left. If you want it to go right, just have your hand at the bottom of that steering wheel and send it to the right, and it's going to go right. So just having your hand at the bottom, and that's the direction that you want the trailer to go. And then if you're moving forward, just put your hand at the top of the steering wheel. Obviously, you're going to remember right and left, but if you're going backwards, put it at the bottom, and go left and right. So I think that's going to do it. That kind of gives you an idea of how we approach towing, how we do it, how it's a little bit more relaxing for us now than it was when we first started out RVing. It's definitely having the right vehicle paired with the RV and having the right equipment and set up properly really makes a world of difference when you're out there on the road. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you have any tips or comments for towing, what you do to make that more enjoyable, more relaxing, and just an overall better RV experience by the way that you tow. Leave those comments down below. So like I said, I think that's gonna do it for today. I hope this information helps you out, helps you enjoy the RVing experience even more. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you wanna see more videos about RVing, hit that subscribe button. And if we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will see you next video.